And I am back with another When I'm Not Podcasting. Thanks for listening in. So I talked about cuffing season a little bit earlier, a few episodes ago here on the program. And I'm going to tell you a story of my own because I've gotten caught up in cuffing season. Let me tell you what happened. So 2012, the holidays, and it was right around October because I remember it was still warm outside. I met a girl on Craigslist. And I remember going to the Cheesecake Factory for the first date. And, sounded like everything went okay. And I spent some time with her just to talk a little bit. Long story short, she was in recovery. And she had a curfew, so she couldn't stay out late. Trust me, I know. I went to the sober living house where I dropped her off. And after this, I actually did spend time with her in this sober living house. So let me just put this across. Young girl, I'm, at that time, I'm 32, 33, and she's 25, I want to say. So young girl, pretty, green eyes, long blonde hair, and she had come from Wisconsin. And I don't know everything about what she told me was true, but she did party, and she was addicted to drugs and to alcohol. And she had come down to Florida to go ahead and, rehab. So she actually had me go and experience a bunch of things when it came to the OIP, which is the, you got to do urine testing and stuff to be checked out on a regular basis. So constant drug testing. I even stayed in what was called a step study. So I got to be in one of those meetings, a weekly meeting that all these different guys got into. And she said, if you want to understand where I'm coming from, what I have to go through, why don't you go ahead and, spend time with me? And I didn't spend Thanksgiving with her. I did go to a Christmas party with her, and we did go out, went out to dinner, went out to different things, but there wasn't much I could do because there was always certain parameters. Like if I did go spend time with her, it would be at her place. And she had her own room, and I remember we'd go and sit down, with her in bed, or watching Chelsea Handler when she was really funny, and that show was good on E! And, it was fine like that. We fooled around a little bit. She always had a thing when we went to go, she wanted to go grocery shopping. Well, so I was the one with the car, and I would go ahead and take her to the grocery store. Always had to have a cart. Was never going to get a couple things. She always just had to get everything in a cart. Always had to run a cart around, whatever it was. And so we did some of that. But I also noticed the thing that with her, spending time with me, she wanted to show me off a little bit because I wasn't part of that program. And that, look at me, I found this guy that really loves the way I am because she wasn't necessarily a skinny girl. She was, thicker, but not necessarily overweight. Not to me. She was probably about 5'8", and I'd say, probably around 200 pounds, 220. Beautiful girl. Hey, I was totally in, but I didn't like her putting me around like that. Then the other thing too is that she would kind of parade me around, which I felt uncomfortable with anyway. But that's just because she just wanted to show like, I'm going to find a way out of here. Because what I found out from her, eventually when we were spending time with each other, it was really, she was a bit selfish. And that's okay. That's expected. But then the other part that she had was we had really not been very active, sexually or anything like that. But with her, she wanted to think of plans about moving in together, starting a family. Because what she wanted was, she wanted to get out of the whole rehab thing, find a man that was going to just basically just pick her up and rescue her, and then bring her into, let's just live together, I'll be home, be the happy housewife, and that's it. And at that point, I wasn't looking for that, but I also didn't want to rush anything like that, which I've never been in any serious relationship before anyway. Listen, I'm single, no kids, never married. I've never been in a serious relationship. And when I got to this point, I felt like I was doing everything because, she wasn't necessarily overly, what's the word I'm looking for? She wasn't very touchy-feely. She wasn't very enamored. She wasn't very sexual. She wasn't very, I didn't feel like she was really offering much to compromise or to show that she actually cared. Like I was the one that made the phone calls. I was the one that, set up, get together. I was the one that bought things. I bought her gifts, took her shopping, all that kind of stuff. And then after that, it was just, I realized, man, I didn't want any of this. I remember going to like I said, the Christmas party and being around everybody else and just feeling like, I'm in an environment where I don't want to be. She had all these rules in front of me as well because, she said she was getting herself taken care of. She had been sober for 4 years. And then I go along and like, okay. And I get together with her and other friends and I'm just like, everybody's kind of still in a rough spot. All these people are in rehab where you can just tell like they've gone through so much and they're just trying to find their footing back to being just something, close to normal. So they can go ahead and, go 12-step and find a way to be the, something more of a pillar of society. So she wasn't working. She wasn't doing anything really just to get herself up. And, even though I felt bad for her, about 4 months into this, I didn't get together with her for New Year's. I didn't get together with her for Thanksgiving. None of that. I remember taking her shopping so she could do Thanksgiving shopping. But that's about it. Like we did a Christmas party. We did some other times got together. But then also she had very little time to go and spend time because things just started doing this thing. Well, we're spending less time together. She has less time to get together and meet. So things were happening. And I just noticed, man, I don't like any of this. And, if I buy presents, she's not really giving me anything for Christmas. We didn't spend New Year's. I guess I felt like I was by myself still. And still trying to make something work. And I'm like, well, if I'm the one doing all the effort here, I don't want to be a part of this. So I jumped out. And I just I wasn't happy. And I remember I called her and I tried to kind of give her a warning and say, listen, I'm not happy here. Like there's, I was trying to be as nice about it as possible. I just saying, listen, there's just things that are just not right. And I want some change. And I just didn't flat out try to tell her, listen, I'm not happy. I'm not happy with this relationship, and we're not getting anywhere here. I don't feel like I'm getting anything from you. I wasn't willing to go and say it. I was too much of a nice guy to even try to go that route. I never yelled at her. She had a bit of a temper, but I never got her to get to that temper. That was the other thing I tried not to do. Then the other part was she was always very much no attention span or very little patience. She can't stay like sitting down in a restaurant or a movie theater or anything like that. So that took away some of the things we could do, which I like to go to a restaurant. I remember we went to a restaurant to go watch basketball and she was trying to get into, it was just to go to a restaurant and just happened to watch sports on TV. And like 30 minutes in, she couldn't handle being there anymore. She said, we got to go. And she always had to be home early. It's just like for me to get her where she wanted to be, like I just felt like I was just going to get nothing out of this. And so I did break it off. I was the one that initiated. It really pissed her off because she really didn't think she was doing anything wrong. But cuffing season, I met her right before the holidays because when things start getting a little bit cooler, like, when the weather changes, you can see what's going on there. And when I got together with her, I wanted to make it happen. And so I kind of strung it out to see what would happen with her, but it never happened. And, that's really the last time I really got into anything that was like even resembling me trying to get into some kind of serious relationship. Otherwise, before that, if I dated before, it would be where maybe I would go ahead and date a girl for a couple of months, but then things would just kind of fade out. And maybe it was a lack of interest in me or because I was being nice and maybe I just kind of just turned the girl off or she lost interest. Looking back now, that's probably what it was. But then also, I wasn't being much of my real self at all because my problem was I was trying to be something that I'm not. I was trying to be the best date instead of being who I am. It's very cathartic to talk about this. But that's something I went through. And so, I was going to take a story that kind of talks about cuffing season that was going to go into this and how to survive it. So I'll bring a couple of things up here that they talk about. But I know for me, it's one of those things that, it's a real thing. It's true. And it's happened several times. I'll just say that too. And you don't want to go through it. Like it sucks. When you know that people are just getting into this because that's what's going on. So let me get into this story from Mashable. They talk about how to survive cuffing season. And they talk to a Dr. Justin Laymiller, calling this a biopsychosocial phenomenon. And he tells Mashable, this means there are biological, physiological, and social reasons behind us coupling in the fall and winter months. According to a survey done with Kinsey and Lovehoney, a sex toy retailer where Laymiller is a scientific advisor, people have two distinct desires to when they get back into, well, they were talking about like when it comes to people coming out of pandemic. Kink or relationships, or for some, both. What we want and need right now in our intimate life is a little different from what we did before. So for some people that really have not been anywhere in relationships for a while, that's the other part. Now, why do want people be cuffed? They talk about this. They sent this Kinsey Lovehoney sample. They spoke with 2,000 American adults surveyed between May and June of 2021. 71% said they're more interested in long-term relationships now compared to pre-pandemic. Dating app Inge has also surveyed themselves, and they surveyed their users. 75% of them want a relationship this summer. Mashable did their own survey and concluded that more young people desired a serious relationship over a casual one. So there's many reasons for this slowdown, including beyond the psychosocial cuffing phenomenon. Colder months, the difference in our sun exposure affects the production of neurotransmitters that are involved in mood regulation, which is one reason behind seasonal affective disorder. On the physiological, psychological, and social side, there's the pressure to have a partner for holiday socializing. Because it gets colder in some parts of the country, we're also inclined to go out less and thus interact with fewer people, which is interesting because it is colder outside. At that time, when I was with her, that's why we stayed in so often. Interesting. And this event plays out year after year. And then there's also a part where they talk about cuffing season is literally cuffing season because some people actually want, basically like to be cuffed, literally as a kink. In conjunction with wanting a relationship, people who also want to support sexually now, in the survey with Kinsey and Lovehoney, 51% said their sexual interests changed during the pandemic. 73% of those, they said it became kinkier. Interesting. Hinge saw the shift. 45% of more than 3,000 users surveyed in August 2021 said they want to try new things in the bedroom with a new partner this fall. A whopping 80% said it's important to them that a partner is sexually open and adventurous. Well, that should be across the board, especially if you're going to get married. You want to be sexually adventurous and open to everything. Because you got to be open about everything at all. That's the whole point. The other question they ask is, are we really done with one-night stands? Tinder said earlier this year the future of dating is fluid and that people may be more open to different kinds of connections. Others, meanwhile, adding thirds or more to the mix. The sexual exploration app Field saw a 670% jump in singles listing threesomes as their top desire from 2020 to 2021. So to survive, there's a thought that give yourself compassion and realize you're not alone in these feelings. Instead of hiding them on a date, you can be vulnerable. It may encourage your date to express themselves freely as well. Skip the small talk and have a really interesting conversation. Well, you know what? I didn't do that with this girl. And I never really got to experiment much because she wasn't really interested. And I really didn't know what she was interested in anyway because I really didn't know much about her. Because I talked a lot about myself because she asked me about myself. So it's one-sided. The whole time it was one-sided. And that says a lot about what I went through. But here I am, 9 years later, and really there was a lot of times where right around holidays, they just bum me out sometimes. They do. Because, I mean, yeah, I don't have the kids. I don't have, that big, large family. I'm not living in a environment where it's colder, so all the different events that go on with Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas and New Year's. No, I don't have any of that. I'm in Florida, where it's hot all the time. So it's a little bit chillier tomorrow as I record this. But it's not going to make much of a difference. So there's that to consider. And I appreciate all of you listening into my personal story, because it's true. Very accurate. And maybe some of you guys out there will take a little bit of heed of what I'm talking about here. Your Uncle King of Podcasts, looking out for you. I'll talk to you next time.